Anytime Hollywood announces a new project starring an iconic character, the industry and social media loses its collective minds, with folks speculating which actor will be taking home the role. Some are destined to steal the part, and it's hard to imagine any other actor taking on the role. However, some films have an incredibly long audition process, with many famous faces fighting against one another for the part. So today on Top 10 Beyond the Screen, we're going to be counting down our list of the top 10 movie roles every actor wanted. Before we begin, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'm going to be responding to some of your comments. Let's jump in. Coming in at 10, Katniss Everdeen, The Hunger Games. Following the explosive and unexpected success of Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games trilogy, it was inevitable that the film industry would immediately jump onto a film adaptation, and of course everyone wanted the role of Katniss Everdeen, the badass champion who rallies against the tyrannical leader of the Capitol. Almost every young up-and-coming actress in Hollywood attempted to get their mitts on Jennifer Lawrence's part, with reports stating that Haley Steinfeld, Abigail Breslin, Shailene Woodley, Emily Browning, Emma Roberts, Saoirse Ronan, and Chloe Grace Moretz all auditioned for the now iconic role. But of course, the role ultimately went to Jennifer Lawrence, who was just coming off her first Oscar nomination for Winter's Bone. In at 9, Amy Dunn, Gone Girl. Building off successful books, Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn was yet another book that found itself in the spotlight after Hollywood adapted it into a film, directed by David Fincher of Fight Club and Social Network fame. The book was an intense thriller and followed Nick Dunn during the disappearance of his wife Amy. Now, while Fincher found that Ben Affleck was the perfect fit for the role of Nick, the part of Amy was a little trickier to cast. She's a deeply complex character, with the majority of the film riding on her character to deliver the performance it needs. So knowing that, they were pressured to find the perfect match. Natalie Portman, Charlize Theron, as well as Olivia Wilde all saw out the part, and while all these women would have been incredible, none would have done a better job than Rosamund Pike, the British actress who eventually landed the role, and would go on to grab an Academy Award nomination for it. If you haven't seen Gone Girl, do it now. Coming in at 8, Clarice Starling, Silence of the Lambs. It's hard to imagine anyone other than Jodie Foster taking on the role of Clarice Starling, with the actress campaigning heavily to land the part. However, she wasn't even on director Jonathan Demme's shortlist. Yikes. Michelle Pfeiffer was the first choice for the detective, with Meg Ryan and Laura Dern also shortlisted for the part. Pfeiffer ultimately turned it down because she was too uncomfortable with the subject matter, and Ryan was apparently offended that Demme even thought up the gruesome project. According to reports, Laura Dern gave such an impressive audition Demme believed she was the one. However, the studio was uncomfortable with casting, at the time, an unknown actress, which is hard to believe. Dern is amazing. Resulting in Jodie Foster nabbing it and even winning an Oscar for her portrayal. Coming in at 7, Batman, Tim Burton's Batman. Tim Burton's Batman is legendary. Whether you like it or not, you have to say it was truly a fun film to watch, and Michael Keaton did a stellar job taking on the role of the Caped Crusader. However, in the 80s when the film was in development, every leading man in Hollywood was fighting for the role of Batman, and some truly surprising actors even stepped up to take a jab at it, Bill Murray being one of them. Mel Gibson was also rumoured too, as well as Charlie Sheen and Alec Baldwin, actors that I think we can all agree do not fit the Batman criteria. Thank God Keaton nabbed the role. Coming in at 6, Christian and Satine, Moulin Rouge. One of my favourite films of all time, Moulin Rouge. It's a love story, it's a musical, it's incredible, and it's hard to imagine anyone other than Ewan McGregor and Nicole Kidman taking on the roles of Christian and Satine, two ill-fated lovers in Baz Luhrmann's movie musical. However, the Aussie director apparently saw tons of actors during the lengthy audition process, with Jake Gyllenhaal, who apparently has a tremendous voice, Heath Ledger and Courtney Love all auditioning for the iconic parts. According to Luhrmann, he found Love to be beguiling, and though she wasn't cast, he did obtain the rights to her late husband Kurt Cobain's song Smells Like Teen Spirit for the movie. You win some, you lose some, I guess. Coming in at 5, Rey, The Force Awakens. When a new Star Wars film was announced with The Force Awakens, generations of fans were giddy with excitement to see who would be returning and what newcomers would be added to the already stacked roster. So, of course, when it was announced that Lucasfilm was hunting for a new leading lady, actresses came out of the proverbial woodwork to try and land the career-making part. It was reported that around 2,500 different actresses auditioned for the role, with the most notable of the bunch being Elizabeth Olsen, Saoirse Ronan, and Shailene Woodley, names that will repeatedly pop up on this list. However, in keeping with Star Wars tradition, J.J. Abrams opted to go for a new face and cast British newcomer Daisy Ridley. Coming in at 4, young Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. As we know, Hollywood loves an origin story, and none was as popular as the reboot of Tomb Raider, nearly 15 years after Angelina Jolie took on the iconic role of this video game heroine. Not long after it was announced that a new Tomb Raider was in the works, the hottest Hollywood talent lined up for the part, including, once again, Saoirse Ronan, Emilia Clarke, and even Daisy Ridley, who was supposedly in serious talks at one point. However, the part ultimately went to Oscar winner Alicia Vikander, who signed on in March of 2018. However, the film didn't hit the heights it was expected to, so I imagine the actresses are happy they dodged that bullet. In at 3, James Bond, Casino Royale. Betting on the next James Bond has been a favourite pastime for bookies in the UK, and after Pierce Brosnan stepped down as 007, rumours were abuzz about who would be next to take on the iconic role of the world's most famous spy. Throughout the years, names like Michael Caine, Liam Neeson, Ralph Fiennes, Colin Firth, and Clive Owen were all rumoured to have auditioned for the highly sought after role, with current Bond Daniel Craig ultimately winning out. However, as we know, Craig won't be returning, so rumours are once again flying high as to who will be the next agent, with possible successors being Idris Elba, Tom Hiddleston, Tom Hardy, Damian Lewis, and even X-Files star Gillian Anderson. That's right, Gillian Anderson. Personally, I would love to see a female Bond. What do you guys think there? In at 2, Wonder Woman from Wonder Woman. As we know, Hollywood for years has tried and failed to bring Wonder Woman to the big screens, but when it finally came time to get the ball rolling on one of the biggest superhero movies of all time, many actresses tried to get their hands on the role of the badass DC hero. The biggest stars that expressed interest in the role ranged from Sandra Bullock to Christina Hendricks and even Katie Holmes. However, when Warner Bros. Finally cast Wonder Woman for Batman vs Superman, the casting description read, I quote, "Tall, brunette, athletic, and exotic, all characteristics that don't quite align with our previous mentions." Ultimately, Gal Gadot nabbed the role of the Amazonian warrior princess, and it's quite hard to imagine anyone else playing the part. And finally, coming in at number 1, Scarlett O'Hara, Gone with the Wind. Now, you may be surprised to see this movie all the way out at number 1 spot, but it's known that Gone with the Wind had one of the most famous casting searches of all time. Hollywood was building the anticipation of the 1939 big screen adaptation of Margaret Mitchell's novel by making their hunt for heroine Scarlett O'Hara a national obsession by putting out a nationwide casting call for the part, which resulted in the studio seeing approximately 1,400 actresses and auditioning some of the biggest names in the industry at the time, including Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, Joan Crawford, Tallulah Bankhead, and every other big name you can imagine at the time. It took almost 2 years to conclude the search, and the eventual winner was unknown British up-and-comer Vivien Leigh, and she was cast just days before principal photography was set to begin on the film. Talk about melodramatic. Just like your character and the movie. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any movie roles that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below, and perhaps we can do a part 2. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 10 horror movies you need to pray before watching. Alex Barron said, "Perfect person for this video. All hail the Queen of Horror, Lucy." Bless up. I'm glad you enjoyed. Bow down to your queen. Ichiban 2.0 said, "The witch was boring as hell." Oh. It's okay to be wrong, just accept it. Nelson Chris said, "Every time before watching Lucy host the show, I pray. As you should. I'm known to possess the non-believers." And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Beyond the Screen vid. And until next time, see you later.